Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the viewer, to get a closer look at our local candidates and gives us an opportunity to talk about the issues that are important here in our community. This is all leading up to the general election, which is on November 8th, and we would encourage you to go vote at that time. But first, it's important to get informed, and today we have a guest here who is running for school board at the Frankfort Independent Schools, and her name is Donna Hecker. Good morning.
Good morning, Kathy.
How are you?
Pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you here and appreciate you taking the time. I just want to start out by giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for school board.
Certainly. Thank you. Well, my name is Donna Hecker. I am a lifelong resident of Frankfort, Kentucky. I did not have the privilege of attending the city schools. I was a county school kid, graduated from Franklin County High School, attended University of Kentucky where I studied journalism. Now, this is through no fault of my teachers, but I was a really terrible student and left the UK to go to work in the restaurant business. So I've spent my life primarily working in restaurant management. I'm with Holly Hill Inn & Company now. I am a storyteller and content writer for our website, Holly Hill & Co. Have two children who did get to go to the city school system, graduated from Frankfort High School, and two grandchildren who are now in the city system, which they're pretty much my primary reasons for running. They're 8 and 10, and they're in third and fifth grades at Second Street School.
Excellent.
I always want to make them younger than they are, trying to keep
they're
them
always
younger,
the babies.
right?
So, what skills do you think you have that make you a good fit for this position?
Well, I think in addition to perhaps skills, I think that really what drives me to community involvement is the desire to be of service. Mm-hmm. It was a really big deal in my family. Some of my earliest memories are going around collecting for various charities with my mother as she knocked on doors for March of Dimes, Heart
mm-hmm.
Association, Cancer Society, whatever happened to be, the charity of the month. So it was a big deal in our family. In my current position with Holly Hill & Company, I spend a lot of time doing what you're doing here, listening to people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the biggest skill you can bring to any position.
That's right. That's right. So we're looking at a school board. Mm-hmm. How does that role and the responsibilities of the school board differ from that of superintendent and administration?
Well, the school board is basically a government mm-hmm. entity, a government agency. Mm-hmm. And I think its probably most important role is to set the budget because your priorities mm-hmm. are determined by and reflected in the budget, and to be that sort of figurehead for the mm-hmm. school system, mm-hmm. as it were, not to necessarily, at least as a school board member, to be involved with day-to-day school operations, but to kind of be that representative within the community for the children and families in the school system, and the staff and teachers as well. Sure.
Well, aside from your grandchildren, is there a particular issue that motivates you to want to be on the board?
There are a couple of things that I'm interested in. My father was a teacher, mm-hmm. my uncle was a teacher, my nephew's a teacher, my cousin was a teacher. So education was always a really, really, really huge issue in our family, very important to all of us, although I was obviously not a very good example of that myself. But that aside, it was a big deal. It was a big deal for all of us. And I would just love as a community, for us to think about what it would look like if we made education our biggest priority and our highest priority. How would our lives be different? How would our community be different? So that's what has kind of driven me in this direction. Mm-hmm. I'm at a point in my life where I have time now to devote a little more time to public service, mm-hmm. and that's one of the reasons I'm so interested in this.
Okay. Well, what would you say is the biggest issue facing the board right now at the Frankfort Independent Schools?
I think we have some issues in the community, and a lot of them have to do with just factors that are beyond our control, not beyond our influence, but perhaps beyond our control at the moment. Mm-hmm. Safe and stable housing mm-hmm. is something I'm very much interested in because there's so much that flows out from that. We're in a small district, as you know. Mm-hmm. We're mm-hmm. both downtown residents.
Sure.
So we're a small district. A lot of the property within that district is not subject to property taxes. So we already have a couple of strikes against us from from a financial standpoint, and of the property that is occupied. About half of the homes are renter occupied, so we have a very high percentage of rental property, and a lot of it's not in particularly great shape. So we have a lot of students in our system who are kind of transient. They're in the system one year, maybe out of the system the next, and then they come back. So I would love for us, not just within the school system, but as a community in its entirety, to look at our housing situation, to really take stock of what we have available and how we can better meet the needs of our residents by providing safe and affordable housing for them. It benefits the students, it benefits families, it benefits employers. You know, as a restaurant manager, that's a huge deal when when you have a staff person who can't come to work because they don't have a place to stay. Then obviously, that's a problem.
Yeah. So are there things that the school board can do to help lead that effort?
I think the school board's role as far as leading that effort can be one of making sure that we're considering the ramifications. That if we have a business that comes to town that's looking for tax breaks, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but let's think about how that's going to affect the community. I think the school board can work in hand with the city when it comes to maybe encouraging more effective public policy and seeing that public policy translates into action so that property owners either have an incentive, either negatively or positively, to maintain their property, and that people who are moving into the property have an incentive to maintain it, so that we have a better, I think, more stable base.
Right. Well, I know the Frankfort Independent Schools lost their superintendent last year.
Yes.
And we're all, he's a hometown boy.
Yes.
And he's moved on to bigger things. But we have a new superintendent.
We do. And
what do you think about her?
She's great.
Yep.
I think she's absolutely great.
Yep.
There's so much energy, so much youthful energy there. I went to the back to school night at 2nd Street right before school went back into session. And the level of energy and excitement, kids running down halls to greet their teachers, the hugs, the tears. It was one of the most joyous and heartfelt, moving experiences I've witnessed in a long time.
Good.
And I think Sherry just fits right into that.
Good. When you're working on a board, you're working with different personalities, different opinions. So what do you think is the best way to address differences of opinion on a board or between the board and the administration?
I think it just comes down to respect. Respect, empathy, listening to one another. Someday I'll introduce you to a restaurant staff.
Yeah. So maybe not as respectful.
It could get interesting at times.
So sitting on a board, could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of?
I could.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I should. I think that's the right thing to do. As long as I can be confident that it's a decision that's being made in the best interest of the students.
Yeah. How do you think the board can be more accessible to the community or to specific community groups even?
Well, I think that all of us, all of the current board members, and I think the makeup of the future board, I think these are all individuals who are already out in their community. I think I'm a member of the Frankfort Rotary Club, as you know. I try to make it to as many school events as I can. I see other board members at school events. Obviously, there's always more we can do to be out there, but I think we've got a pretty good collection.
Okay. Recently, at one of our local schools here in Franklin County, we had a bomb threat. We've seen across the nation school shootings, and these incidents have parents and school districts and law enforcement agencies looking for ways to ensure safe schools and to keep our kids safe at school. So what do you think the board can do to ensure schools are always safe, and what plans would you help promote to promote school safety?
I think that the role of the board, in addition to being the overall governing agency, is to be there for the staff and the teachers and the students, to be that support unit, to make sure that the policies are actually being followed as they're supposed to be. And I think that as parents, as grandparents, as members of the community, we all bear responsibility for what goes on within that school. If we see something, hear something, learn something that's not right, that's on all of us. We cannot continue to let schools carry that burden alone. It's just not fair.
Yeah. Students have been through a lot lately.
They have. They sure have.
There's been a lot of, from COVID and distractions. Teachers are having to put more into the schools with less, and they're spending their own money, and they're being asked to do more, and there's just lots of other things going on. So given all of these issues that arise, how can the board stay focused on student achievement, which is ultimately the goal?
Well, there again, I think it's by taking that realization that it's a community-wide effort. The board is there to lead that effort, and I think that we all have a role to play with the other institutions and clubs and organizations that we're involved with to make sure that everyone is aware of what goes on in schools and that everybody is familiar with it and everybody knows that they can help, that they have a role to play and that they have a way to help, whether they're coming into the school and mentoring children. With the Rotary Club, we have our literacy program where we read to the children in one of the local schools. That's a great opportunity. The PTA is open to anyone. I mean, you don't have to be you can be a community member. You don't necessarily have to have a child in school. But there again, it's on all of us to make sure that schools and teachers and the staff in those schools have the resources they need. So whatever that takes, whether that's talking to our legislators, whether that's talking to our city leaders, whatever it takes is what it's going to have to do.
Okay. Well, you're asking our community to put you on the school board. Are there things that you want to tell them? Are there particular goals that you want to champion during your term?
Well, as I said earlier, I really want us to think about what it means to make public education our highest priority. In my way of thinking, it's the most important public institution we have in the country. It's where our children go to learn to be citizens. And I would ask folks to support that. I would ask folks to think about that.
Okay, I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to let you, because I think we're coming
right.
to an end. So I'm going to let you address our viewers directly and tell them why they need to vote for you on November 8th.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
And thank you all for tuning in today. This is a real pleasure to get to sit here and talk about the things that are important to me and the things that are important to our community. I have adopted as my campaign slogan the words live, love, and learn. And I just want us all to think about how we can help our teachers and our students and our families live, love, and learn to the fullest. I ask for your support in November. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for considering it.
Well, thank you for coming and taking some time to talk to me and our viewers. It's so important that our viewers get to hear from our candidates directly, so thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
I want to thank you, our viewers, for taking the time to watch, because it's so important to get informed, because it's election season, and that means it's time to get informed, and it's time to go vote on November 8th. So plan to do that. Get informed, go vote, and then when you're done voting, go home and turn it on Channel 10, and we're going to have some live election returns for you. We'll be down at the county clerk's office that night to give you the play-by-plays. So it's election season, and it's so important to use your vote because it's your voice, and I want you to use it. Thank you so much.